Hello, my name is Max, and I am an alcoholic. I'm sober today only by the grace of God and the fellowship of the program, and I am a follower of Jesus. Welcome to Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Last series, we got rooted as we prepped for our annual Recovery Church Movement Conference. We got rooted not just in ideas, not just in our emotions, but in something deeper, something that holds when life doesn't, when challenges come. And now we've completed our Rooted 2026 conference. The Rooted conference, it wasn't just a moment. It wasn't just an event. It was a turning point. It was hopefully challenging to some, encouraging to all. But here's the question. What happens after that moment, after the event? Because what God starts in a moment, He intends to develop over a lifetime, like planting a seed and letting it grow. So welcome to our new series, Rooted, the Aftermath. This is where we don't just revisit what was said, we wrestle with what it means through conversations with all of our main conference speakers and some additional interviews as well, reflections from the week, and honest dialogue about what it looks like to actually live this out. This is where roots go deeper. The conference may be over, but the work is not. Let's step into what comes next. Rooted, the aftermath, conversations, reflections, and what comes next. Let's check it out for this week's episode. Welcome to Studio RC, and I have two of my friends here, guests, who spoke at the conference and they've shared at Rooted 2026. And so why don't you do this for our friends who might not know you, since I do, but why don't you introduce yourself and give just a little bit about like sort of where you are and your background, and we'll jump into some other stuff about recovery, but who you are and...
Yeah, so Will Motosicky, my wife Maribeth Motosicky. We're in Palm Coast, but really kind of Palm Coast, Florida, Daytona Beach, St. Augustine. That's just kind of like how the Lord has really been working with us in that area. Yeah.
And yeah, we both have struggled with addiction in the past. I was a slave to it for 13 years and was set free, and both have very different upbringings, but God has placed us in a beautiful spot.
So you shared collectively last night, which I thought was a great way to kick off the conference. And I thought I'm gonna brag on Will for just a moment. Will is a phenomenal preacher and communicator, and I think it showed incredible humility and vision to include your wife in the talk. And so kudos to you for God giving you that idea. I'll say God gave you the idea because I don't want to give you full credit, but no. And so that was really, so you started out your talk about how you were different. Share with our friends who are watching, how were your backgrounds different growing up and how they overlapped to come together?
Well, I grew up a pastor's daughter, and I was in church every time the doors were open and singing in the choir, and I had that white picket fence family that most people dream of. You know, there was God everywhere, and that living, walking, breathing proof of it, how my parents lived their lives. Addiction was never an issue in our home, but he had a little different.
Yeah, I always say that I was a Christmas Catholic. You know, that's the only time we went to church.
Didn't even hit Easter. It was just Christmas.
Addiction was rampant. I mean, birthday parties, the keg was there. Funerals, the keg was there. I mean, it was just a common thing in my life growing up. Yeah, there was no emphasis on a personal, intimate relationship with Jesus. So yeah, opposites definitely attracted. But like myself, addiction. 17 years I was in and out of jail, in and out of treatment. I'm just had 10 years.
Awesome. Double digits, baby.
And I'm telling you, and you know what really hit me the most is like this just happened. I had to get a tooth pulled probably about 2 weeks ago, and the doctor offered me hydrocodone, and no thank you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like a thought, like that's how I really, like God did something. He transformed me, It wasn't even like maybe, there was none of that, so.
One of the things we had a breakout session with the new locations, and one of the things we were talking about is that Recovery Church empowers leaders probably faster than the traditional church, and more than likely you probably would not be ordained clergy if it was not for Recovery Church and sort of what that experience was, and that's one of the beauties of Recovery Church is that we empower people right from the beginning. And we don't necessarily, 2 weeks sober, you're leading, but like we empower people in ways sometimes the church feels a little restricted or unable to do. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Recovery Church. Was that your experience, that how Recovery Church worked in that process for you?
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. And even in that process, because I got ordained through the Christian Missionary Alliance last year, just look at me, like, and I'm standing.
Handsome devil, you handsome devil.
You know what I mean? But I'm standing at this ordination, and obviously
you didn't
Phil
look like
there.
Everybody else.
I stood out a little bit. My wife had purple hair. But like this just happened, in 2025. Yeah, it was a process, but I had already been planting churches. I've already been pastoring. I've already been serving that Recovery Church platform prior to that. What really equipped me to continue to go deeper, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the message. I gave a little with the preview about, I thought it was both sweet and very clever how you kind of juxtaposed your stories last night. And it, I was in church. I was in rehab. I was in jail. And give us a brief overview of what your message was. Sort of some of the core themes of at least what you were trying to communicate through your message.
Yeah. Good. I'll follow you.
I know how we had both different upbringings and different stories, but we still ended up in the same place. We still ended up in active addiction. We still realized that we couldn't do it all by ourselves, that we needed God to come in and step in, and that even growing up in the church and Him not growing up in the church, we still were in that desperate need of Him. And that's what the back and forth was, to show that no matter where you come from and what you've been doing, and you can be there. He is needed.
Yeah, and I think that 12 steps, one goal. I mean, it's in our name, and it's what we stand for, right? We need that relationship with Jesus, and that's why we're sober, right? Sobriety is a byproduct of our relationship with Him. No matter what our lives look like, we needed Jesus. So,
it's funny that the 12 step. Had I been writing the 12 steps, and you can be glad that I didn't. But the 12 step I would have originally written, having gotten sober as the result.
Yeah.
And that's not what it says. It says having had a spiritual awakening as the result. Like, I have come to understand and experience, spiritual awakening is what brings about long-term sobriety. It is not long-term sobriety that brings about a spiritual awakening.
There you go.
Right.
And that truly is the message. And I love how you said, we came from different spots, but we landed in the same place.
Yeah.
And needed the same thing.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I think that sometimes I have found, and I don't know if this has been either your experiences or experience with others, is sometimes the hardest people to get recovery are those who have faith and can't get sober, because they don't understand, why isn't this working?
Right.
Have you experienced that? Now, you came from a faith background. Was that ever a struggle for you? Like, why? I know Jesus, I'm a believer, but why am I in addiction?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of pride in mine too that I have Jesus. I don't need the 12 steps. I gave Will a hard time when he tried to take me to AA that this was a cult, and
Yeah.
I had Jesus, but I hadn't touched my Bible in 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
I had that my parents' relationship with Jesus. I saw theirs, but I never had him as my personal savior and a personal relationship in my life. So it was all my pride, I think, in saying that I have that faith when I really didn't. It really wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think big thing that comes back to that whole faith and works argument, that whole debate. Listen, if you have faith, you have works, and if you don't have works, do you really have faith? That's the whole argument, right?
And I have found that works is really, it's my response to being loved.
There you go.
It's not to be loved, but I want to help somebody because I was helped. I was loved. I want other people to feel loved.
Yeah.
And so that's what that's what propels us when we talk about faith and works. Because I know a lot of people who are great at works, with their head down, and they miss all the, they miss it. And I think I think as addicts and alcoholics, we have a special understanding of both.
Right.
And so that it's we got almost a friend to come in. And with the microphone, it doesn't really pick it up, so you don't have to worry about that. I saw you it's all good. And that's recovery. Honestly, is family too. It affects the family. Our sobriety impacts the family. Our non-sobriety affects the family.
Yeah.
I love how Phil said, my kids have never seen me drunk. Me neither. My family has never seen me drink, let alone drunk, and it's a blessing. And being able to raise them in that is really awesome. All right, let's go back to what part of last night's message or from one of the themes would you find that was probably most challenging for you to either share with others or most challenging in your life?
I think one of the biggest hurdles, we have to go back to kind of like that Lake Placid in 2020, 2021. Because we sat outside of Lake Placid in this old wrought iron, and we sat there and we're like, we are not planning a church. I am not qualified. Listen, I can speak at a meeting, I can do the whole GSR thing, but as far as a pastor,
Yeah.
ain't happening, and a lot of it stemmed from that I wasn't qualified. I thought I had to do something. I thought I had to be like the other pastors, or there was no way, I had to get by that,
And I think that's basic addiction. We don't feel like we fit in.
Right.
And so now if you go into an environment where it's even more polished, that how am I going to fit in? You're going to say, I'm sorry.
One of the most impactful things that you had on my life, and I don't even know if you realize this,
We'll see.
was in the early days, right? I was really at that point, I was struggling, struggling with ministry, struggling with just my recovery, and you handed me one of these crosses. And you wrote something on a little piece of paper when you handed it to me, and you told me Will, you needed to keep on pushing, keep on persevering, because God has such a blessing and such a plan for you. And I kept that pocket cross in my pocket for a long time, and I worked that thing. I mean, I ran that thing black, even through a couple washing machines. But it was like people like you, it was people like Phil, it was people like Junior, people like Dr. These people who spoke into my life and encouraged me through that process to really understanding that, hey, Will, you can do this,
And it's been a sight to watch you. You're like the Energizer Bunny. We wound you up and away you went. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
So you look like you were going to jump in too here.
Yeah, I just keep going back to that table too. Obviously growing up in ministry as a pastor's kid, the thought of going to be a pastor's wife was terrifying too. Absolutely. Our first reaction was absolutely not. I can't. In a way that God has worked it all out and qualified us and made us see what was missing the whole time, I think, is the most beautiful part about it, because you think you have it all, or either you have it all or you have nothing.
Right.
And it's like that blend of everything that needed to come together for that. So
And I have to just on a personal, it's been fun to get to know you and to watch all the crazy things that you come up with to do. Like and I'm sure there's a better word than that, but like bold and whether it's bike week or like doing revivals or the multiple campuses or whatever. It's you've been in it and been doing it and front lines.
Yeah,
And there's nothing better than Recovery Church on front lines is. I mean, we're in it, and it's a lot of blessings, heartache as well, this is not a industry of all wins, and so we take them where we can get them, and it's just that hasn't outwardly deterred you. I'm sure along the way there have been some bumps, and as I think we all experienced that, but that just been unabashedly for what's next for Jesus and Recovery Church, and so that's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. All right, let's I'm going through my questions. Let me ask you one last question, and then I got two other things, so it's really three things. But you do the math. We're doing just one last thing 3 times. How can people connect with you? Where are you, and then how would people connect with you?
Yeah.
I mean, we use the Facebook a lot, so.
And tell them what that Facebook is.
Recovery Church Palm Coast.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
YouTube is a good platform we use a lot too. You can check out Recovery Church Palm Coast on YouTube. We can do a lot of our videos and onloading and uploading on there.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a contact on there. We have an outreach coordinator. So any questions, any emails, we'll get all that.
Sweet. All right. So Maribeth, did you get a cross ever?
I did not.
All right. Well, which would you like? Do you want to pick? I don't know.
I want that.
All right.
Thank you.
And you both get these as speakers. You get to get one of those.
Cool.
Look at that. You get a little swag.
I like that.
And then we're going to close with a question. I have this little box called Not Just Sunday Questions. And they're kind of group questions. So you have to choose 1 fish or 2 fish.
2 fish. Yeah.
2 fish. All right. I went through the questions. Initially, I just picked out of the box, but now I've gone through the questions, but I've randomized them, so I don't know what the question is. So we'll see. All right, this is a great one for both of you. We'll close on this. Who in your life taught you what real forgiveness looks like?
Wow. My parents. Like I said, my childhood wasn't the greatest. But the moment I was able to make that forgiveness and have that with my parents, it was huge. Because we have a relationship now that we've never had.
Yeah.
Because I was able to get past my part in it. Just in the way they grandparent our children, I can look at them and the love and the care that they have with my children and not have a resentment of why they didn't have it with me, because I was able to forgive and get past that. So, yeah, I think that's mine.
Yeah, that's good. And mine's definitely my mom too. She knew everything I was doing the whole time of my active addiction, and she went to war praying over my life. And when it came time to make those amends, and she already knew everything, and I poured it all out, and she's laughing at me and said, "Maribeth, I forgave you for that years ago." She doesn't even remember those, and that was just the ultimate sign of true forgiveness to me. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, I thank you for getting to spend a little time with you, and we did this, 3 people in the interview area, and it worked, and we got all the answers. But it's been great this time, but also it's been great to get to know you and just to watch. And I can't wait to see what God's going to do through you guys in the future. And I look forward to just being a part of that as you go forward. So
Yeah,
God bless
Thank
and
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And that's the episode for this week. But that's what isn't where it ends, because what was planted at Rooted is still growing. The real question isn't what did we hear, but the real question is what are we going to do about it and do with it? So take a moment, reflect on what stood out, hold on to what challenged you, and take one step, just one, toward living it out. This has been Rooted, the aftermath, where the moment may have passed, but the work is still ongoing. Stay rooted, keep growing, and we'll see you next time here at Studio RC. We encourage you to like, to share, to subscribe, help others find this encouragement for their recovery and their faith. This is Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. Remember, 12 steps, one goal. We'll see you next time.